the kind of soul that can rise again, no matter how many times it crumbles. That's resilience. That's grace. That's what no enemy, no system, no collapse can take from you. So walk the path, not because it's easy, but because it's right. Not because you'll be celebrated, but because your soul knows it's what you're meant to do. And even if no one sees your light in the storm, let it shine anyway. Because someone will. Someone always does. And maybe that glimpse of your fire will be the thing that saves them. In the end, we're not just survivors. We're builders of the unseen, guardians of what still matters, keepers of the sacred. And even as the world shifts, trembles, and tears, we are here. Still reaching, still rising, still remembering who we are. And maybe that's the greatest act of defiance, to remember, to not let time, pressure, or pain erase the truth of our essence, to carry forward what's holy, even when the world calls it foolish, to honor light in a culture obsessed with shadows, to keep faith in a time that rewards cynicism. Because when we remember who we are, we remind others of who they can be. And that's how the sacred multiplies, even in broken places, even in ruins, even in silence. And that's how the sacred multiplies, even in broken places, even in ruins, even in silence. Because truth doesn't need a stage. It only needs a heart that refuses to be silenced. And right now, in this moment, if you're still reading, still feeling, still here, then that heart might be yours. The world will keep shouting. It will tell you to numb out, to conform, to chase the next thrill, or drown in distraction. But if you can stay still, if you can stay awake, you'll hear something far older than the noise. A whisper, a call. Not to be great in the world's eyes, but to be whole in your own. Wholeness isn't perfection. It's honesty. It's being who you are, fully, without apology, even when it's inconvenient. Especially then, because that's when it counts. When no one claps, when no one sees, when no one is handing out trophies for integrity. That's when character is forged. That's when the soul decides who you really are. So don't lose yourself chasing shadows. Don't trade your peace for applause. The world doesn't need more polished masks. It needs more unshakable hearts. It needs people who don't just speak truth but embody it, who live it when it's costly, who carry it even when it burns. And yeah, that's hard. It's meant to be. That's what makes it sacred. That's what makes it real. Because in a world built on speed and surface, slowing down to feel deeply is revolutionary. Choosing silence over spectacle is rare. Holding to meaning when it's mocked, that's courage. And every time you choose it, every time you choose you, the you your soul was made to be, you're building something the chaos can't touch. You're becoming the kind of person who doesn't just survive the storm, but becomes the I within it. Still, clear, centered. Let the world collapse if it must. Let systems fail and illusions burn. Because the truth is, anything not rooted in love, in truth, in spirit, was never meant to last anyway. But you were made to last. You were made to become through the breaking, to rise through the ashes, not as someone untouched by pain, but as someone transformed by it. And when the final veil is lifted, when everything false is stripped away and only essence remains, what will be left of you? Will it be fear or faith? Ego or love? Noise or silence? This is the real war. Not between nations or powers, but within. Between the part of you that wants to be safe and the part of you that's ready to be free. So choose, not tomorrow, not when it's easy, now. Choose who you are. Choose who you're becoming. Choose it in the small things, in the quiet moments, in the way you breathe, in the way you speak, in the way you forgive, in the way you begin again. Because every choice is a brick. Every choice is a thread. And one day, the person you become will be the legacy you leave. A lighthouse or a ruin, a wall or a window. And if you can't save the world, save your world. Light your lamp, speak your truth, tend your soul, and trust that's enough. Because it is. So yeah, the wall will fall, that's certain. But who you are when it does, that's still being written, and you get to write it with every breath, every moment, every sacred decision. So build wisely, build truthfully, because the storm is watching, and your soul was born to outlast it. And here's the real challenge most people miss. It's not about knowing what's coming, it's about knowing who you are as it comes. Too many people prepare their houses, but not their hearts. They store supplies, but not wisdom. They stock up on survival gear, but forget to cultivate compassion. And when the chaos hits, it won't be food that keeps you human, it'll be your soul. That's the irony, right? We've built a world obsessed with the external status, wealth, comfort, influence. But all of that burns. All of that crumbles. What remains is you, the you that no one sees, the you that gets revealed when the masks are stripped away. And I keep wondering, what would that version of me look like when it all breaks? Because that moment is coming, man. Maybe not in fire or war, but in silence. Maybe in the quiet death of meaning. Maybe in the digital noise that drowns out our humanity. Maybe it's already here. The decay, the drift, the emptiness. We call it progress, but inside we feel the hunger for purpose, for truth, for something real. And maybe in the end, that's the only thing that matters. That we didn't let the world make us hollow. That we didn't become what we were fighting. That we kept a light alive, no matter how small. That we stayed human in a world trying to make us machines. So yeah, the wall will fall. And when it does, I hope it finds you whole. I hope it finds you honest. I hope it finds you burning not with fear, but with faith. Not with ego, but with courage. Not with answers, but with the willingness to be true. Because this world doesn't need more noise. It needs examples. It needs anchors. It needs souls who remember who they are when everyone else forgets. And maybe that's you. Maybe that's why you're reading this. Not by accident, but by invitation. So don't wait. Don't sleep. Don't waste another minute building walls that won't hold. Start building the one that matters. The one inside, brick by brick, truth by truth, love by love, until you become the kind of person who stands not just when the wall falls, but because it did. And when the dust settles, when the sky clears, when the silence comes after the storm, let them say they stood, not because they were fearless, but because they were faithful. Not because they had all the answers, but because they never stopped seeking. Not because they were perfect, but because they were present. And maybe, just maybe, that's what saves us in the end. Not escape, not control, but presence. Real, grounded, humble presence. The kind that shines even when the world goes dark. And when the darkness lingers longer than expected, when the silence becomes unbearable, when you're tempted to believe you were wrong, to hope, hold fast. That's the test. That's the moment when most give in, not because the enemy won, but because they stopped believing they mattered. But you do. Your choices echo louder than you know. Your kindness, your courage, your truth, they ripple. They seed the soil for something better, even if you never see the tree that grows. We are each the keepers of a flame, and the world is colder than it admits. So if you carry warmth, let it burn. If you carry hope, speak it out. If you carry love, let it overflow. Because in this age of fracture, every act of integrity is resistance. Every ounce of love is rebellion. And every moment of clarity is a miracle. We keep waiting for someone else to fix it, someone else to speak up, someone else to lead. But what if that someone is you, not in grand gestures or viral fame, but in the quiet way you choose to live, in the way you raise your kids, in the way you treat a stranger, in the way you hold yourself accountable in the dark when no one is watching. That's leadership. That's legacy. So keep showing up, keep building, keep standing, keep becoming. Even if your voice trembles, speak. Even if your knees shake, stand. Even if your heart is heavy, love anyway. Because even if the wall falls tomorrow, you still have today. And today is sacred. Today is where eternity begins, not in perfection, but in presence. Not in the grand, but in the faithful. And if enough of us live that way, maybe the wall won't fall at all. Or maybe, when it does, we'll finally be ready to rise from the ruins and rebuild something far more beautiful. Because sometimes destruction isn't the end, it's the clearing. A space carved out for something higher, something more honest. The fall of the wall might just be the beginning of our becoming, but only if we've done the inner work, only if we've faced the mirror and refused to look away. This life, this strange, sacred journey, isn't just about avoiding the fall, it's about becoming. The world wants you to drift, to scroll, to numb out, to forget, but your soul wants you to wake up, to build, to love, to serve. And maybe that's the war. Not of weapons and armies, but of wills. Of whether you bend to convenience or stand in conviction. Of whether you follow the world or you walk your own path. And when the ground shakes, when the lights go out, when nothing familiar is left, that's when your truth is revealed. That's when your soul speaks loudest. Not with words, but with presence, with clarity, with a peace that can't be shaken, because it's rooted in something eternal. So yeah, the wall will fall, that's certain, but who you are when it does. You know, man, I've been on this mental spiral lately. We're always talking about the big mysteries, aliens, AI, simulation theory, psychedelic trips, but there's one story that really shook me up. Someone mentioned it to me in passing, something out of Islamic eschatology, Yajooj and Majooj. I'd heard the names before, but never like this, not in depth. And once I started digging, man, it just consumed me. In the Quran and Hadith, they're described not just as tribes, but as these chaotic, unstoppable forces. Not evil like cartoon villains, but chaos itself, destruction without balance. And the legend says this: ancient king, Dhul Qarnayn, actually sealed them off behind a colossal iron wall between two mountains, not metaphorically, literally. And they've been trapped there ever since. Still, right now, until that wall crumbles. And when it does, it's the end game for humanity. That idea, this sealed chaos, just waiting for a crack, man, it hit something deep inside me. Because it's not just one isolated prophecy. There's a sequence. First, the Dajjal comes, like the Antichrist. Then Jesus returns, defeats the Dajjal, peace returns, and then when it seems like we've survived the worst, Yajooj and Majooj are unleashed. Like just when you think you made it out alive, boom, the real apocalypse begins. And I kept asking myself, what if this isn't just a story? What if it's symbolic? Or worse, what if it's literal and we're watching it unfold? Maybe they're not monsters behind a wall. Maybe the wall is inside us. Maybe it's our moral barrier. And with every lie, every injustice, every violation of truth, we're tearing it down. Maybe these beings are not some ancient tribe, but manifestations of the chaos we're breeding. Look around, misinformation is rampant, spirituality is hollow, truth is mocked, hate is weaponized. What if Yajooj and Majooj are just waiting for us to give them permission? What's wild is, in the Islamic narrative, even Jesus doesn't fight them. He retreats. That's how overwhelming they are. The only thing humanity can do is pray. That tells me something huge. This kind of chaos isn't fought with weapons. It's not about strength or strategy. It's about who you are when the chaos hits. You can't build yourself when it starts. You have to already be built. I'm not even Muslim, man. But this story, it's universal. Every belief system has its version of this final test, and most of us are too busy scrolling or chasing clout to see it coming. Maybe we're the monsters. Maybe we're becoming the very thing the prophecies warned us about. And when I think about AI, genetic editing, super soldiers, it's like we're engineering our own destruction. And here's the thing, the wall, it doesn't have to be some mountain wall. It could be a spiritual one, a boundary we were meant to keep intact through character, through discipline, through truth. And every time we trade ethics for convenience, every time we put profit over people, another brick falls. Until, eventually, there's nothing left to hold back the flood. What scares me isn't just the idea of Yajooj and Majooj coming, it's that they may already be here, inside us. Think about what happens when rules disappear when no one's watching. Look at the way we behave when structure collapses. We become selfish, destructive, impulsive. Maybe these prophecies weren't about external enemies. Maybe they were a warning about what happens when we let the ego, pride, and greed take over. Wars for ego, addiction to validation, governments serving power, not people, billionaires racing to escape a burning planet while kids grow up empty. That's not a dystopia, it's now. What if this is the very environment Yajooj and Majooj thrive in? A world where people stop caring, where comfort outweighs conscience, where morality is optional. And you want to know what really haunts me? It's not some massive explosion or giant army breaking through a wall. It's the slow decay, the silent unraveling. When people laugh at virtue, when peace becomes weakness, when self becomes God, that's when we know we've lost the war before it even started. The end, if it comes, may not come with a bang. It may come as a whisper, a crack in the wall. And by the time we hear it, it'll already be too late. And that's what makes these stories powerful, not the theatrics, but the mirror they hold up to us. But listen, man, this isn't about doom, it's about awareness. Because every day we make choices that either build the wall or break it down. Every act of kindness is a brick. Every lie is a crack. And when enough people choose truth, maybe, just maybe, we can delay the collapse. We can't fight this with bullets. We fight it with soul, with discipline, with truth. You don't need to be perfect, but you need to be awake. And bro, that's the real battle. Not the one out there, but the one inside. Because if we don't purify ourselves, no bunker will save us. And if we do, no chaos can destroy us. I don't care if you believe in prophecy or not. This story, Yajooj and Majooj, isn't about fear. It's about responsibility. It's about being the kind of person who stands tall when the world falls apart. Because in the end, all these ancient stories say the same thing. The chaos comes, but only those who've built strength within will survive it. So yeah, I talk about this stuff because it matters. Because the wall is cracking, and we still have a chance to patch it. But we have to choose it. Every moment, every action, every thought. Because the question isn't whether the wall will fall, it's who will be when it does. And here's where it gets even deeper. Because once you understand that this wall is not just physical or metaphorical, but spiritual, you begin to realize your life, your choices are either protecting or weakening it. And maybe the real tragedy isn't the chaos itself. It's that we had the power to stop it and didn't. Maybe every small injustice we tolerate, every truth we ignore, every time we stay silent when we should speak, those are the chisels wearing down the final barrier. And maybe the real war isn't about armies at all. It's about awareness versus ignorance, compassion versus apathy, soul versus ego. And I keep asking myself, if the wall breaks today, am I ready? Have I done the work within to face what comes without? Because the flood isn't just about destruction, it's about exposure. And when it comes, the world will see us for who we truly are. No filters, no excuses, just truth. And man, I hope I'm standing on the right side when that moment comes. That's why I keep talking. That's why I can't shake this story. Because it's not just a prophecy, it's a mirror, and it's showing us something urgent. This isn't just about surviving the end. It's about earning the right to witness what comes after. And that starts now. With you, with me, with every single brick we lay or remove from that wall. Because in the end, the wall will fall. The only question left is who are we when it does? And maybe, just maybe, this is the mercy of the prophecy. Not to frighten us into panic, but to awaken us into purpose, to wake us before the crash, to shake us before the silence. And in that moment of clarity, when the noise stops and you're left with nothing but your soul, you'll realize the war was never about who you defeated, but about what you protected, your integrity, your values, your compassion, your truth. These are the weapons of light, the armor of those who endure. So ask yourself today, who am I becoming? Am I building the wall or breaking it? Am I feeding the monster or fighting it within? Because the end isn't just about the world falling apart. It's about the soul finally being seen. And when that day comes, when the truth floods in and the illusion fades, let it find you ready, not scrambling. Let it find you awake, not distracted. Let it find you worthy, because you lived like it mattered before the world ever asked you to prove it. Let it find you honest when no one was watching, generous when you had little, kind when you had reason not to be. Let it find you unshaken by fear, because your roots were deep. Let it find you calm in the storm, anchored not in certainty, but in conviction. Let it find you brave, not because you knew the outcome, but because you faced it anyway. Let it find you whole, even if the world had tried to break you, because you chose to rebuild. Let it find you as you are. No masks, no filters, no performance, just real, just human, just present. Because in the final measure, when the wall falls and all else fades, what survives is not what you owned or what you knew, but who you became. So let it find you becoming every single day, not just preparing for the end, but living in such a way that the end has nothing to expose. Let it find you ready, not in reaction, but in identity, the identity you built, choice by choice, moment by moment, with sacred intent. Because maybe that's the only thing the chaos can't consume, a soul that was already awake before the noise, already standing when the ground began to shake. And maybe, just maybe, the reason these stories keep returning to us isn't because we're meant to fear the end, but because we're meant to become something in its shadow. You see, fear alone fades, inspiration lasts, and when you know what you're protecting, your soul, your integrity, your light, you start showing up differently. You stop playing the game everyone else is trapped in. You unplug, you pause, you start to see the patterns, the illusions, the distractions that steal your purpose. Maybe this is what the wall represents. Not just a boundary between good and evil, but the line between who you pretend to be and who you really are. And every choice you make either strengthens your truth or feeds the illusion. Most people never realize how sacred their choices are. They treat their lives like noise instead of signal. But the soul knows. Deep down, it always knows. The W